approach differently. And the other approach is often the longest approach because it requires communication and patience. The fastest approach is anger.
It actually is scary every time, like when I...
Okay, so let's hop on to this next one. So we talked about relationships and all this stuff. Therapy and existential dread.
Yeah.
Go hand in hand.
Picking up on from last week, I guess we're going right into it. Okay. I feel like when I'm dealing with it, one of the things that definitely help, I think, is just you get these feelings and you just like, just
no one can see
down. You stuff it down and you stop feeling anything. And I'm just kidding. But dealing with it feels like you get familiar with it and you're aware with what to do, but it never gets easier. I'm aware of certain tools that I learned from therapy and whatnot, but it's using it that makes it a little rough. The thing is, there's like a resistance to it. Like I should just breeze through this by now, but then you don't because I don't because I'm resisting a method of processing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think it has to do with, I think it's called inners. I don't know if it's called the same in English. Let me check. Inertia. Yeah. Like when you're in the mood to keep on raging, you're gonna rage a little bit more. Maybe like you will step down a little bit and then a little bit more, but yeah, things that are in motion tend to keep being in motion.
Was it Newton's law, isn't it? That's
Yep.
Yeah.
And things that are stationary tend to stay stationary.
Yeah.
That momentum.
Yeah. Because there's the days of not feeling like it, but you just do the thing. The one thing, the lowest hanging fruit to get just a one step.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And that's why usually when you get advice is to not get mad in the first place, because once you get mad, you're fucked. Like you're on your way to being that snowball if you manage it properly.
I think I would have to. I have a thought on not getting mad, because sometimes when you control yourself too much, you don't get to release it. I would say once you're mad, you could release it on a positive note, like maybe do boxing, maybe like dance, release your energy into something more productive. Because when you tend to, being an angry person myself, I realize when you tend to hold or withhold your anger, what happens is it gets stuck within you and it eats you. Like it's a fire, it burns right within. But
yeah, like
when you start, let's say, like the Fire Nation, you start shooting out fire, right?
The Fire Nation. The Fire Nation. Your anger is essentially the Fire Nation. All of a sudden, the Fire Nation attacked.
Yeah, you start attacking, but you attack like people that should be attacked. Or I would say you attack in a good way, in a sense that, I mean, you could run a marathon, get your anger off, or go for your best put your anger all in. Yeah. I would say
I actually agree 100% with that. The thing is, it's not the same to release energy than to rage. When you rage, you don't control it. So what I meant was like, you should get mad, but you should analyze the situation in the most objective way you can. So therefore you're gonna
clear out your head about being mad.
And you're gonna release that energy in a way you don't hurt anyone, nor you. That's usually my problem. Yeah, I maybe don't even scream to anybody, but then I go box without gloves and turn my hands into shit, and that's no fun. So that's why I think it's important to control it before it happens, before it releases the rage.
Yeah. It's essentially like your anger is raw energy, and if with that raw power, it can be destructive. So like you have to refine it. And
what's rage or emotions in general?
Like
please explain to me.
Intense anger, like.
Yeah. Alex is trolling us right now. What is emotion? Error.
emotions. Does not
What are
compute.
emotions?
But yeah,
Error
it's like the
for
difference
not-
between screaming your throat out and singing, for example. Like if you're sad or you're angry, you can sing about it. But if you're on a rage, you're gonna scratch your voice.
Yeah, because it's more, it's out of control.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what you said last week in regards to constructive and destructive energy, like in terms of how you of leveraging the energy. And I think it's tough because we talk about it now, but it's easier said than done, especially when you're in the moment. Like when you mad.
Agree.
And
Everything, if when you say when it's love, everything went blank, it's the same thing as you're angry. Everything went blank as well. Everything goes blank. And
Yeah,
you black
especially if you can control the situation.
Fuck
Like maybe it's something, it's your fault and you can heal it, and that's cool. But if it's something it's out of your control, you like spiral into rage for sure. I don't know, like a shitty client, for example, the one with the calendars last year. It's not
Oh my
something
God,
you can
dude.
control. So
Yeah.
you end up like snowballing your anger because you don't know how to direct it in like a productive way. So you
Or-
hit the wall again and again until you realize you can't do anything more than what you're already doing.
reminds me because I remember in anger management, there's a thing called HALT. Don't try to go into situations of trying to talk with people or try to do any decision making if you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired.
Yeah.
So, and then those are, and when the moments where I've gotten easily triggered or been on edge or just say more snappier than usual, it's like either I'm hungry or I'm tired.
So true.
Yeah, when he gets snappy at me, I'm like,
yeah.
I think
Have a
among
banana.
the four, being hungry is the one that makes me snappiest.
So
Like you turn into a monster. Like what they say. When you're hungry, people turn into monsters.
and then there's the thing of putting it into practice. You can't exactly just be like, oh, I'm just gonna randomly get pissed off and put to practice these things that work. What do you call it? The one thing, because Max, I think you brought it up a couple of weeks ago about a certain tool that you told me about. I think that's the playback, and or is it the same tool? Like we reviewed? Okay, it could be, or is it the self-soothing one with the
self-soothing one, the
Okay,
one that
cool.
you taught me, that
Okay.
I taught too. Yeah.
There's another one that I do I call it the playback, where it's like especially when I get angry at Jordan or when I have a shitty interaction with a client, like I do something called the playback. I go through that situation on the points where I get mad, not to get mad to beat myself up over it, but to be like, what's the other choice in this situation? What's the other choice in this situation? What was the trigger point? And it's hard because it has to be a lot of admitting and reflecting and not trying to sugarcoat it. Oh, they're wrong. They did this. It's more, okay, how did I show up? How can I be better? Especially with me, my big goal is to be as good a person as I can to other people, especially as a dad, especially as a leader with other people. And I don't like it when I'm snappy or when I say mean things or I text you guys in all caps. But so that's where I go back. I'm like, okay, before this interaction, where was I? Was I hungry? Was I tired? Like how many hours of sleep and all that stuff? Or, okay, so when the minute I was triggered, like, and when I said this, when things went south, I think Camilla, when we were working on the calendar, I got mad and and then I took a step back, like, fuck, man, I like working with this guy. I was hungry. I was tired because I was like, fuck, man. I was like, Camilla almost left before he joined it because it was a bad interaction. And that's where I was like, okay, I owned up to it. I apologized. So I apologize.
Yeah. Of course.
It's big, right? And
Confirm.
did you?
I wouldn't be
Did
here
you?
if not. So yeah.
And then we talked things out, and then I reflected and like, where can I be with a part when I was triggered, and the decision I made. I look at that. Okay, I decided to say this. What's the other choice? And when I'm upset with Jordan, okay, I did this. What's the other choice? How can I say things that upset me? How can I approach differently? And the other approach is often the longest approach because it requires communication and patience. The fastest approach is anger.
It actually is scary every time, like when I see a message. No, not in all caps, but the opposite of that. Like what I liked in the video. Like
He's ready for the butt.
The butt.
if message starts with like what I like in the video, it means that
There's a what I
there will
hate.
be,
There's this one
some
is
big
not
ass
so good.
notes.
So should I just go
God,
straight into the big ass notes?
That's that's
I don't
literally
know.
Because
It's not
that's
working
literally
anymore.
my
Like
that's
the
literally
good-
my boss
shit,
at my
bad
at my
shit.
day job. Oh my god, it's a great start.
because I want because I try to be specific too. I'm just not, I try to be like great overall edit. I liked that you I don't know I like some of the effects. I try to acknowledge the things that I think were working. In my head, I'm hoping that
Compliment sandwich.
that and I
Yeah.
hope that also means do more of that next time. That's why I'm saying bringing it up. And then here's the other things. Here's everything else, obviously.
Here's what you don't fucking do.
What does it say? Okay, Melanie on the chat says, I usually end up blaming myself even when I'm the angriest.
Yeah.
And it's true to be angry, I blame myself. And how to balance what it is. It's even harder to stop thinking about it that way. And how to balance it out. Thinking about 24 hours, 7 days a week cues. Okay, 24 hours. So I think the hardest part, especially when we're after the aftermath of a breakdown, is processing what happens. Because Melanie in the chat says sometimes we end up blaming ourselves.
Yeah, and you tend to go back to the situation, the things that you hated, and you tend to blame yourself, right?
Yeah.
I heard on
moving back instead of moving forward, no matter what you say to yourself.
I yesterday learned a very good technique to fix that self-blaming situations.
what is it, Alex? Share your wisdom.
Yes.
It's like this mental exercise. I don't know if you can do it on your own. Like in the video, it was like a therapist, and she was talking like that she works with clients, and what they do is they step by step share the situation that they like made a mistake in and blame themselves, and they share that like very detailed, and then the client builds another version of that, like how it should have, just as detailed, and it rewires
Thanks for the follow,
the
Casey.
brain.
Oh.
And even though it's like a trick, but it seems to be very effective.
I love that. It's very similar to the playback, except you're writing it down, and then it becomes retention.
What Alex is doing is it was an exercise that was done during a therapy session.
Oh,
But
okay.
I think I would only recommend that if you've actually been to therapy already.
Yeah.
Just trying to do that on your own, not good.
I think if you sometimes the bad part about it is if you try to do it alone, Max is right. You may have like the tendency to move back negatively. Like, shit, why did I do that? Shit, why did I do that? Instead of redoing things on your head.
Then also,
yeah.
and the thing with like anger, I heard this on cinema therapy, that anger is more of a secondary emotion. Like anger is the first one to come out, but it's still a secondary emotion. It's like there's a reason to be angry. Why am I angry? You're not just angry.
Yeah, it's like smoke, not fire.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.